So, Mixed Nuts, rated PG-13, meaning if the kids are old enough, they're in. It's an hour, 37 minutes. Directed by Nora Ephron, written by Nora and Delia Ephron, who are sisters.
Okay.
Composer George Fenton. And we got starring Steve Martin, his big Christmas movie, which didn't help with his Christmas career, but he still has a good movie career, still has a good acting career on top of that. Rita Wilson, well, I guess I should have said Steve Martin is Philip, the main character. We have Rita Wilson, who was Tom Hanks' wife, you informed me of, who plays Catherine. Madeline Kahn as Mrs. Munchnick. Liev Schreiber has his big role as playing Chris, a transvestite.
His first role.
His young blood. And Adam Sandler, because you have to have him in a 90s movie. It was made in 94 as Louis, and he does his voice.
Yeah.
That wasn't a very good Adam Sandler.
It was. Good job. And classic Sandler. And one of his first bigger films, I guess, or like first films.
It was before Billy Madison.
Yeah, a year later he would do Billy Madison, so there you go.
Budget was $20 million. It grossed $6.8 million, so it was not a box office success. And the fact that I'm sure if you're listening, you're probably not very aware of Mixed Nuts because it is more of a niche Christmas movie. One that I grew up with because I found it in the $5 movie bin when I went out shopping. But I'll give you, from that shopping experience, a quick synopsis from the back of the DVD because we watched this movie old school. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house the only creatures stirring were a transvestite, a homicidal Santa, a serial killer, the staff of a suicide hotline, and a very crazy pregnant woman. Filmed Dudley Avenue in Venice, Los Angeles, California. And that is Mixed Nuts in a nutshell.
Ha!
See, I got some nut jokes.
Full circle.
So, Dave, big question for you. Yeah. I don't think you're ready for this.
Oh, I probably am not, no.
You like it?
I did. I had a fun time with it. I think, I was telling you before, I never remember this movie. I remember seeing the DVD cover or like the movie poster for it maybe, but I never watched it, and I was looking into it, and it's because my favorite movie, Christmas movie, came out the same year, The Santa Claus. And then when I looked up further,
34th Avenue Miracle.
Yeah, Miracle on 34th Ave?
I haven't seen that or the other Santa Claus movies, so I couldn't tell you because I watched Mixed Nuts. Well, so exactly. See, that's kind of how this movie has been. You've seen one or you've seen all the others.
Exactly.
And this is the one I've seen.
I guess that's my point is I did not see this movie when it came out because I was too busy watching the Santa Claus on repeat. So.
And you are a bit bitchy as well.
Yeah, sometimes.
So one of the other reasons too, so there were other big movies that overshadowed it, and it wasn't like critics didn't really like it. And I think one of the big reasons why I like it particularly is because it has more of that dark, dry humor. It's also almost written, you mentioned like a play. It does have like very sketch feels to it where it's different acts and every scene is its own kind of individual jokes laid out in its own premise. But I really like the issues they tackled because it starts off with the staff of a suicide hotline company at Christmas time when it's popular. They're being foreclosed on because the apartment building's selling it to make condos, and or I guess they are condos. Regardless, they're being evicted on Christmas Eve, and the suicide aspect of it, they're talking about like transvestites, transgender. There was mention of that. There was a relationship between like a criminal and he's like an artist and his pregnant
girlfriend.
The girlfriend trying to make wife, and they really put together a lot of. Oh, there was also Catherine Rita Wilson. She lived with her mother and was kind of like a spinster and was very sad. So it took a lot of negative aspects of Christmas and tried to bring light and to bring that into life, and that's why I enjoyed it because it's different and it did a pretty good job for its time in '94.
Yeah, and I think like you said too, like there's just a lot going on in this movie. There's also, I think, one thing you forgot to mention: the Seaside Strangler. There's a serial killer out on the loose too that everyone's afraid of in California. So a lot going on in this movie.
When you put it that way, you're right. I did leave that out, but this movie actually has a little bit of everything. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna like it. If you like murder, Seaside Strangler, there's romance, there's some bathtub loving scenes going on.
Yes, there is.
There's drama, like when Philip and Catherine are at the vet clinic and they're arguing because he's good over the phone, but he's not good in person. Then they have a bit of like the family aspect with them going Christmas caroling. Like, they're hauling off a dead body in a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts.
Yeah.
The Seaside Strangler has been dealt with at this point in the movie. And then there's Christmas caroling, and then the pregnant girlfriend gives birth. So, like, there's little subgenres all over this movie, which, again, help appeal to a wide audience. Kind of like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I had to throw that in there.
Oh.
I think my top movie of the year, FYI. We'll see.
We'll get to that later.
Cut that out.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a fun movie. Again, yeah, reminds me of a play. Good ensemble cast. Like, I think there's so many recognizable faces in this movie, like, that were in movies throughout the 90s. I mean, Steve Martin, to me, is like the prototypical, like, movie dad, right? Kind of, like, very friendly. He's got that nice smile and energy to him, and, you know.
I mean, you're probably just beat out by Robin Williams.
Well, yeah.
But what he has going for him is that silver fox, that white hair. Exactly. He's had it from a young age. Very successful at the stand-up, too. I guess it's like... Yeah, he's like Robin Williams. He has like that. There's a lot of people we could name, but he is a great dad figure, and like just a seemingly responsible adult that turns out not having things under control, not being as responsible as you think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Rita Wilson, I actually didn't even know was Tom Hanks' wife. I don't know much about her in this movie, but she was great at performance.
Yeah, no, she was good in this movie as well. And like, yeah, classic Adam Sandler. Yeah, Billy Madison would come out, Happy Gilmore, and like he's just the same guy in this movie as he is in those, pretty much. That
was as he kept climbing and climbing from SNL, making it to the movie roles, just solidifying that you can toss him into a movie, and it adds, he has a very addicting song into it about...
very musical.
Catherine. It was so great. That's a lot of fun. Liev Schreiber, too. This is his Rob Lowe's Youngblood, because in 94, this was just before... I'm blanking on the name. You'd think I'd write it down, wouldn't you? But it was around 96, 98 took off, so this was his first major role, and playing a comic relief character, being the transvestite, and he's a pretty big fella. He's 6'2". He's kind of muscular, so to put him in the dress and the heels and make him, another spoiler, dancing around with Steve Martin, it was a lot of fun. And classic Dave's phone vibrator. I'm bringing it up, Dave. You're not hiding from this. Luckily, our main producer and sound engineer Liz was here to help save the day because of the phone ringing. Classic Dave. So Liev Schreiber being in that role was a lot of fun, and it was great seeing Liev Schreiber in this role early off.
He's one of my favorite actors for sure, and like to see him as a transvestite in his first role would be totally unexpected. Like I would have never guessed that this was his first role, but he was pretty funny. I liked him.
We also had Jon Stewart in it.
Right.
He is very brief appearance. He's a rollerblader with a woman, and they both are carrying a Christmas tree, and they rollerblade down, and that becomes a whole messing around with that Christmas tree, running joke at the beginning and the end. Then you also have Stephen Wright, Massachusetts comic, who he's very, very dry pan humor. Like, example of his joke, it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it. So he's the master of that. He comes in, starting off with the movie. So to get into the suicide hotline aspect of it, when the phones go staticky back on the old payphone days and like the rotary phones, they would press the little button, but not fully, to cancel it to help clear the static. And he has a gun. So he's going to the phone booth like, I want to kill myself. And she's like, no, just press that button, click it. But he only hears because the phone's breaking up. Click it. And you just hear the blood splatter and the gunshot. It doesn't show it. I'm like, that's a perfect comedian for that perfect segment. And it's again another way that they've dealt with these dark Christmas suicide, and I at least found it funny. Maybe a lot of other people did, maybe not the critics, but it made me laugh.
I like that scene too. It's kind of a little shocking for PG-13 to me, I guess, like in this, especially I feel in this day and age. So yeah, it's like we said, a bit more of a mature Christmas movie, especially for what was out that year, right? So,
and then even moving forward, like there are certain movies like Bad Santa, Die Hard always gets thrown in there because it's around Christmas time. Yeah. So this is fitting in that roles, and again, there's a lot of big roles for that. But for me personally, I have the nostalgic aspect. So when it comes to like a dark humor Christmas movie, this is the one for me. Yeah. So Dave, I want to know. Would you rate the movie?
I think I'd rate it a 7. I think it's like I think it's an underrated Christmas film. I think if you're looking to have a good time and something a little bit offbeat for Christmas, I think it's a good, maybe, it could be a bit stressful going home to families, some years, and family drama and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like this movie helped encapsulate some of that, that kind of little.
I know what you mean, though. It does. Christmas is all about masking up everything else and enjoying a positive time. But realistically, we're all going through events, and there is more going than just cheery, singing, smiling, cookies, baking. And this is a good movie to show you that, yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, there's a child born, everyone's singing, everyone's happy. But what really leads up to that is just a big headache and a lot of a pain.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like I think it's a very offbeat film. I think there's a lot of unique characters who come into different confrontations in this, but by the end, it's all kind of resolved, and it's kind of a Christmas miracle, and it makes you feel
boring
good.
Classic.
Boring classic.
But that's a good point. I like that rating. And for me, with the nostalgic factor, it helps it. But for the exact same reason as you're saying, I really enjoy the way they tackle all those dark issues and the way they've confronted it and weren't afraid to hide it, but then also make it cheery at the end because it is a Christmas movie. You do have to make it happy. Yeah. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, which means I'm calling it a hot bush is what I'm calling that. That's the start of a very, very fine looking bush. So 15 out of 20.
Not too bad.
That is... Instead of having the Pulitzer Prize, we'll have the Pulitzer Prize.
Oh, wow.
So that's 15 out of 20. That's a pretty good Pulitzer applicant there.
There you go.
For Christmas movies, at least. And on that cheery, festive note, I want to say, it's all about Christmas. Happy holidays. There's a lot of movie. This was ours. And thank you for listening, even if it's just the tip.
Yeah, just the tip.
Craving a movie podcast with wicked wit and sizzling style?
Look no further. Dean and Dave Do Movies is your ticket to nonstop cinematic fun.
Don't miss a beat. Rate us 5 stars, subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts,
and share our show with fellow film fanatics.